An interactive whiteboard can be a great tool when you want to support readers looking at primary documents. Smart notebook software or the active board software or any kind of a software associated with the interactive whiteboard provides tools similar to Word and PowerPoint, as we previously discussed, where you can break up the text, rewrite the text, add word banks, and so forth. But we wanted to highlight a few of the tools that are specific to the Smartboard today. A lot of the tools are also tools that can be found on other interactive whiteboards, but just very simple tools that don't involve a lot of prep work that can help you navigate a primary document with your students. One of the very simple tools that I think of when I want to show a document but only highlight parts of it is the shade. I always used to use a piece of paper over my transparencies on my overhead projector, and that's how I think of this, as just being able to reveal parts of the document so that my readers don't skip ahead and maybe get overwhelmed by it. So just clicking the shade allows you to cover your document and only highlight certain parts, which can also allow you to break it up into chunks. So right now we're just going to focus on the title and we're going to talk about that. Or we're just going to focus on this first part and we're going to talk about that. And the shade allows me to do that without having to spend time on my own breaking it up. I can hide parts. Of course, I can also pull it from the bottom or the side if I want to highlight parts that are below and I want to cover the top. So that's one good option for doing that. Another thing I really like about the Smartboard software is it allows me to go into dual page view so that I can show my document on one side, and then on another page that is next to it I can have something else. So maybe I'll have some visuals to support the document that might add to or extend what's written on the document, or maybe I'll have it written in modern language next to it, or maybe I'll have some more background information on the document, or maybe that's where we're gonna put our notes and we're going to write some things about it. But either way, I can be displaying both of them at the same time, which is a nice feature. Another very simple way to use an interactive whiteboard is just through the pens and the different ways you can annotate the document. If I go into the pens, of course I can write, and if I were actually on the Smartboard, I would not be writing with my mouse. I would be writing with the pen. But I can choose different kinds of pens, one being a highlighter. So maybe as I'm talking to my students about the document, or even my students are leading me through and they're talking about the document, either my students or I can use the highlighter tool to focus on specific words or specific chunks or something that we want to make seen more so than the rest of the document. So the highlighter feature is nice. And remember that all of these tools are also on the floating toolbar, which can be used in internet applications. So while I took this document as an image inside my notebook software, I also could access it, for example, on the internet on the National Archives website and be doing the same thing. So I wouldn't even have to bring it into the software to do these annotation features. So maybe in addition to the highlighter, we're coming out here and we're writing something, which would be easier to do if I weren't using a mouse, but I could be annotating it and we could be saving it and coming back to it and having some rich discussion about it. One of my favorite pens that often teachers don't consider as an academic tool, because it seems to be more of a fun tool, is the Magic Pen. I love the magic pen for two reasons. One, if we draw a circle with it, it's going to create almost like a spotlight. And I can use the spotlight, I can drag it around, and maybe I want to highlight the word convention because we're going to talk about it. And we're going to kind of dissect it and figure out what does it mean and what does it mean in the context of this document. Or I could scroll around and we could go down to resolved. We're going to talk about that. So it allows the reader to focus in on certain parts and kind of put away the rest of the document so that only talking about convention as one of our vocabulary words. You can make the spotlight bigger or smaller by dragging it, and you can of course drag it around to different parts of the document. Now that's if you draw a circle. If you draw a square or rectangle with the pen, it's going to create a magnification, or it's going to zoom in on parts of your image or your document. So this is another way to highlight keywords or to talk about parts of the document that I think is fun for the students, but also a great tool in that it kind of puts away the rest of the document and lets them focus on the part you want them to really see. This document does pretty well with that. Some images or pictures that you have and try to do this become a little bit blurry with the zoom, but this one does very well. So it's a nice one to be able to magnify. The magic pen is also on the floating toolbar, so anything that I'm doing here with that, I can be doing in an internet application with a document. Say I'm on the National Archives, I don't want to move it into Notebook, I can do it right there. So those are just a couple of the very simple applications that we like to use within Smart Notebook to support the reader that don't involve prep work. Is something I can just pull up as the teacher in the moment and do with the students, and then of course I can save it and come back to it, or I can always come up here to export it as a PDF so that I could put it on my classroom website, or I could put it somewhere for parents to see or for students to access outside of class as a way to continue to work on understanding the document or applying it to other things that they're doing.